What's going on, everybody? Good evening. Good evening. I hope your day went well. And if it didn't go well, you made it. Hopefully tomorrow is going to be a better day. Positivity is something that I live. Good evening, Lin. Positivity is something that I live and something that I practice. It's actually not something that is just natural to people. They say that 80% of our subconscious thoughts are actually negative. So that means when we are not thinking of anything or we're not specifically guiding our thoughts towards positivity, they go to negative places. So I just wanted to get into this topic of an energy leech. A leech in general is a blood-sucking parasite. There's no way to combat a leech and what a leech does. They give you some things that you can do, but they basically are like, make sure that your arms and legs are covered. They have certain sprays and stuff that can help you do your best to avoid a leech. And what is a parasite? A parasite is an organism that lives on or in a host organism and gets its food from or at the expense of its host. So what is an energy leech? To me, an energy leech is somebody usually who has negative energy of their own and tries to feed off of somebody with positive energy. It doesn't make them feel better, but it kind of gives them their next hit. So in order to protect your peace, you have to become an expert at noticing the energy around you and what it's trying to do to you. Because there's times where someone could be very stressed, very negative, going through a lot of things in their own life. And they're like, I don't know how to make myself feel better. So the only way that I can make myself feel a little bit better is by making somebody feel some of what I feel. And if you aren't aware that that is going on, you could get caught up in the shuffle. You could leave your house in the morning and have intent of having a good day. You want to be happy for the day. You want to be at peace for the day. And you run into somebody who was holding this ball of negative energy for somebody. It didn't have to be you, because it's usually not personal to the person who they put it on. But it's like they see somebody. You know what? This person is too happy. This person is too positive. So I got to take this ball of negativity, push it on them. And if you're not paying attention, you might think that that was specifically just for you. But it was for anyone. Something that I've learned over the years, there is no way to actually combat an energy leech, because they came in there with the intention of getting you to where they are. That's their point. That's the whole point of what they're doing. So it's like you come into a conversation, let's say, and you're trying to gain an understanding and come to a common ground. They never had the intent to come to a common ground or have a conversation or come to an understanding. Their intent was to get you upset, to get you angry, to troll you. And if you bought into that, they already feel like they won, no matter what you say, because they're looking at you. This person had peace at one time, and then I said what I said and I did what I did. Now they're not at peace. So it doesn't matter anything that we're talking about in between the lines. I have won. So you've got to learn how to identify that person, know what they are bringing to the table and why. See that ball of negative energy coming towards you and be like, excuse me, you can go that way. I've gotten to that point in my life. It's taken me many years, because there was years where I would often take on people's energy. I would experience this energy leech, not know that they're an energy leech, and think, how can I win this discussion? How can I win this argument? How can I get this person to see my point of view? The best thing that you can do with an energy leech is to starve them of the thing that keeps them alive, your energy. An energy leech, somebody who lives with this negative energy all the time, can't live and thrive off of somebody else's negative energy who's also negative all the time. They are attracted to people who don't give off the same type of energy as them, because it's a game to them to try to get them on the same level. If you were up here and I was down here and I was throwing rocks at you up here, and you came down here to tell me how mad you were at me, and you started throwing rocks at me here and here, the rocks don't hurt this person, because their goal was to get you down here. You have to choose when you get up in the morning the type of energy that you will accept in your space. Now, there are some exceptions. An exception might be somebody that you have to see at work, in your home. Sometimes it's family. Sometimes it's people that you actually can't avoid. And in those cases, some boundary setting has to be involved. Maybe talk to them a little bit less. Maybe set some ground rules. Maybe in the case of like a business relationship that you have to have by default, you're like, we're only going to discuss things that are pertaining to the actual job that we have to do together, because we're working on a common goal. We're not going to discuss any extra things or outside things, because I know that you can't be in my space because you impact my space. And it took me years to get to this point, but I'm so glad that I'm here now. I'm so glad that I'm at this point now. And I'll give you guys an example of an energy leech. I'm not going to get into too many specifics, but this was something that happened a few years ago in my life, where somebody accused me of saying something about them behind their back. It wasn't true. It was never said. And I know the old me would have not only, that's the opposite of what I was doing. If I was feeling negativity, I'd want to be around someone with positive energy. Yeah. Well, that's a good comment, Lyndon. That's a good comment. Yeah, that is definitely a good comment. But there's some people who live, eat, and breathe the negativity. They live, eat, and breathe the negativity. And it's sad because I feel like you are what you speak about, what you watch, the way you think, and the people that you have around you. All of those things impact you. I know some of the most negative people ever who are always talking about positive vibes only, positive this, positive that. And they're not positive people at all. So, really, Linlin, I don't really think that what I'm saying applies too much to you in that way. But yeah, I appreciate that comment. Sometimes it is the case where somebody is unintentionally being an energy leech. Okay. And I can actually use myself as an example. Years ago in therapy, I had a situation where I remember talking to my therapist at that time, telling them that my friends were all disappearing and leaving my side. And I felt like these were just disloyal friends, or not necessarily disloyal, but people who couldn't handle the things that were going on in my life. And the therapist told me something that was hard for me to hear. And it was that I was kind of exuding toxic traits. They said, you're not a toxic person, but you're kind of giving off toxic traits. Basically, they asked me, when you interact with these friends, what do you talk about? And I said, I'm honest. I talk to those friends about what's going on in my life, and most of what's going on in my life is really cruddy. And they were like, and what else? Do you talk about anything else? I said, no, because I keep it real. This is how my life is right now, and that's just how it's going to be. And if they can't handle that, they shouldn't be in my circle. And the therapist was like, do you ever ask them how they're doing? Do you ever tell them, I'm here for you to talk to you about what's going on with your day? And I was like, no, because I have issues right now. I don't have a capacity for that. But then they said to me, would you like a friend that was only around you basically to leech off of your energy? And my answer was, well, my answer at that time, I wasn't trying to hear that. But later on, when I thought about it some, I was like, no, I wouldn't. So I asked that therapist, what can I do? I'm going through tough times, and it's hard for me to really think outside of myself, knowing all the things that I'm experiencing. And they said, well, I'm basically wanting to introduce positivity into your life. And I said, well, how can I be positive if somebody asks me how I'm doing and I'm not feeling good? So they gave me a suggestion. Hey, Mark, how you doing? How's your day going? Or how was your day? And my day was the worst day in the world. Instead of saying that, they recommended that I say something like, I unfortunately did not have the best day today because of these circumstances, but I made it through. And tomorrow is going to be a better day. I've been around people like you are describing. No longer, though, because misery loves company. I'm so glad you said that, because that is absolutely true. Misery loves company. I agree 100% with your comment. I agree 100% with your comment. I agree. Those people are drawn to each other as well. People who are just in a negative space, toxic, they come together, they feed off of each other. But the thing is, they're not making each other feel better by sharing in the misery. They're keeping them, they don't realize that they're actually keeping themselves where they are by not changing that mindset. I don't even have the space in my life to be who I am and do the things that I do and engage those people. There's no possible way. There's no space for that at all. None. None at all. Everybody in my life, everybody in my real life knows how I am now with my boundaries. And I never used to be like that. And I remember having the experience of energy leeches really changing me and bringing me into their world. I remember doing things for revenge. I remember thinking really negative, toxic thoughts about people. Again, I want to repeat what I said earlier. There is no way to beat an energy leech. You can't outdo them. You can't outwork them. You can't outthink them. You can't beat them in an argument. Like I said earlier, it's like a negative ball of energy that they have. They're holding it at the beginning of the day, waiting to shove this in somebody's chest when they see them. It doesn't have to be you if you are aware of what they're doing. When you start seeing it go in your direction, excuse me, that wasn't for me. I don't know who that was for, but that wasn't for me. And you'll find that they quickly disappear because the thing that they were seeking from you, you are not giving them access to. And they might not disappear right away. I'm not going to act like an energy leech. You just stop paying attention to them once and they just disappear forever. Sometimes they come back, but they can't grow without your permission to let them in your space. That's the only way they grow. The frustration can grow, the anger can grow. They can be upset for a while that they can't access the energy that they are trying to access. But eventually they're going to go away because what is there left to do with somebody who will not engage? The only thing that can be done is them leaving. They can throw a tantrum. You know, they can throw stones at you. But unless you give them access to your space, that's that. I want to give another example. I had one that I was dealing with in a professional setting. I said to myself, there's no possible way that we can have this many legitimate disputes because I get along with people very well for the most part. And, you know, there's people that just won't like you in this world. That happens. But for the most part, anybody who genuinely wants to get along with me will get along with me. And I'm somebody who gets along with most people in this world. So I said, why can I not get along with this person? So I would sit down and analyze this for the longest time. What can I do differently? I tried different approaches. It might sound like I was doing too much, but I watched YouTube videos regarding the problem that I was having. I read some books. I did different things, thinking that there must be another approach that I can find where we can reach a level of understanding. And no matter what I did, it was like this, we're just butting heads constantly. And I started to sit back. And actually, I spoke to somebody about it. And they spoke to me about a narcissist. I went down the rabbit hole of finding out about narcissistic tendencies. And also times when you just have to leave the table, when you realize that peace is not being served there. Okay. So it wasn't about the angles that I was taking. It wasn't about um, our communication styles being different. It wasn't about anything like that. It was that that person brought the contention on purpose. I thought that we just were on different pages and frequencies, but this was intentional. There's a difference between unintentionally being on different wavelengths and intentional. Exactly, Lyndon. Exactly. Don't let that person be you. Eventually, they realize it's not working and seek someone else if you don't entertain them. Exactly. Let that person be somebody else. Don't let that person be you. Do not let that person be you. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. When I say that I don't have the time and energy to deal with those types of things, I have my job that I do. I'm a mental health counselor. I have to listen to people's problems all day. And there's only so much human capacity to do that if I'm allowing toxic energy that doesn't need to be there in my space. Some of the people that I talk to give me that type of energy. And I'm not insulting them or anything like that. I'm just saying people have things that are going on in their lives that I have to hear as part of my job. And it requires me to somewhat take those things in. So if I'm walking outside, somebody curses at me on the street, and I allow that energy to seep into me, curse back, go back and forth, whatever happens, we fight, I don't know, anything. Now I've allowed somebody to enter that space. The fight is not the end of the negative space that I feel. They could go about their day. They could have fought anybody, right? But I chose to let it be me. And now that's going to sit with me. And then for a person who's positive like me, I would think to myself, this was avoidable, wasn't it? I could have just ignored that and let it go. But because I chose to engage with this, that person maybe got what they sought out for from me. I did not get what I sought out for to have happen to me when I left my house in the morning. So I thought this was a really important topic to talk about. Um, it's something that impacts everyone. It's something that impacts everyone. Recognize the energy around you. Know how to read the room. Somebody told me that in a negative light on YouTube like a month ago or 2 months ago during the Big Brother season. They were like, you are not reading the room. I'm taking that comment and I'm flipping it. Yeah, you have to know how to read the room. That was a big problem for me. I got rid of those people and I have more peace in my life. Thanks for sharing your thoughts about this. And thank you for your comment, Victoria C115. Appreciate that. I think it's a big problem for everyone, to be honest with you. I think everyone can identify that type of person. Now, it's not always as easy as walking away. What if that person is your child? What if that person is your sibling? What if that person is your parent? I don't really want to get too deep into those kind of things for myself, but I'll say I have dealt with that person being someone I cannot just leave them alone. Like on the internet, I can just block somebody who's doing that. I don't have to engage with you. But there's some platforms in real life that I literally cannot avoid this person. I cannot avoid this person. And I had to learn in those situations that those people had to have limited access to me. And I had to practice boundary setting once you got to points where the things that were being said or done were impacting my peace. And this is really important for me because as people who have been following my channel know, I've spoken about having an anxiety disorder, right? So for me, I see that as people without an anxiety disorder, I think, start their day with an empty cup. The cup is empty. And then whatever the world pours in it, it fills up, and it fills up for everyone. But I feel like when you have like an anxiety disorder, clinical depression, those types of things, your cup already starts half full for the day. Before anyone has said anything to you, before you've interacted with anyone, it's just half full. So that means you have a smaller capacity than the average person to handle what the world, the negativity that the world is pouring into your glass. So the way to counter that is to be more conscious. Move the glass out of the way. I don't have any space in my cup for that, right? I was having a conversation with, hi, Madeline. I was having a conversation with my personal trainer. It's the same. I always relate everything to fitness. As y'all know, I post about fitness all the time because I have so many parallels between life and fitness. And my parallel is that you guys see me now and people are like, oh, you know, you're a slim dude, you're in shape, whatever. I have slow metabolism. Believe it or not. I'm not just somebody who just wakes up, oh yeah, this is just my shape that I always have. I could go in 2 weeks, I could lose a whole lot of this progress that I gained just by eating all the things that I want in the quantities I want and when I want. I had to make a conscious choice that I'm only going to eat these certain things at these certain times, and that I only have this much capacity to stray from my nutrition plan. Because don't get me wrong, you are not always going to be able to avoid the trolls and the energy leeches. You're not always going to be able to do that. You know why? Because you're human. Human beings only have so much capacity. So eventually, you might ignore 10 of them, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. And then the 51st person might catch you on the wrong day when you've avoided all the rest of them and you woke up and somebody filled your cup immediately. And you're just at a boiling over point when they reach you. But the point is not perfection. We are continually learning. We are continually growing. It takes practice. You're not necessarily going to just watch this video and if this is a problem in your life, it's going to change tomorrow. And I'm sure that those of you who said you've had those problems in your life, I'm sure that it took y'all some time to be able to identify that and to be able to change that. I'm sure it took y'all some time because I know it took me time. Positivity is a choice. I remember this teacher when I was maybe second or third grade. She always used to walk around smiling all the time. And me and my friends used to make fun of her. What's wrong with this lady? Now I'm about her age that she was at that time. And I realize she probably had all kinds of things that happened to her in her life by that point. She chose to be that positive person that was smiling all the time. We only control what we can. We all have a limit. Absolutely, Madeline. That's the other thing. So, in those cases, when we pass our threshold and our limit, we have to forgive ourselves for occasionally not following the script of the game plan that we have set out to do. We just have to make sure that when that happens, we can actually identify, you know what? My cup was a little too full. Oh, I want that. Actually, I'm glad you said that about we have a limit. I made a post a month ago or so saying that it's okay to be in a mental space where you're like, I am not in the space to engage with others right now, and to take a mental health day. Somebody told me I can't afford the luxury of mental health days. Unfortunately, we went back and forth on that. But my point of the matter was, there are times when it is okay to say, today I am not going to engage with others because I know that I am not in a good space. So I am going to do whatever I have to do in terms of self-care to get myself together. And tomorrow I can have a fresh start. And it's going to be better for everyone. It's going to be better for you. And it's going to be better for all the people that you had to interact with. As far as I know, I mean, I have heard of some companies that give mental health days, but I've never been a part of one. And I work in the mental health field. You have to make that happen. Nobody's going to say, here, I'm giving you this day to just focus on you and to focus on self-care. Self-care is not a class that you were taught in school, not elementary school, not preschool, not high school. If you went to college, not in college, not your master's program or your doctorate program. There's not a self-care class. That's something that you have to get to on your own. And I got to that point after being broken down. I got to that point after being broken down, and hitting a rock bottom and saying, what do I have to do to piece myself back together? And I got back up, baby steps, to where I got to a point where all the things that I learned to get me to where I am now, I would never let anything that threatens my wellness ecosystem get in my space. Never. A lot of people have tried. A lot of people have failed. I have starved a lot of energy leeches in my time. I have starved a lot of energy leeches in my days, and I will starve many more. They're not worth it. I choose to be who I am. I could choose to be somebody else, but it would not get me to the places that I'm trying to get to. I would not meet the people that I need to meet. I would not be in the spaces that I need to be in if I was a different person than the person who I am now. Now that you're saying that, in Texas, and if you work for the state, they give you mental time off from work because working for the hard to serve. You know, maybe I need to move to Texas, Madeline. Maybe I need to move to Texas because they definitely don't do that in New York. I mean, I know certain jobs, like if you are a psychiatrist, or I think certain jobs in the medical field, I think that there's required days off. And I know that like certain jobs in the mental health field, you have to see, it's mandated if you're working that position to see a therapist. Example of giving yourself a day off. Sometimes you have to take a day. Yes, Madeline. I'm so glad you said that. This is true. And I know that a lot of people feel like, how could I ever do that? Because it's being selfish. It's not being selfish. Because you want to be able to be your best self for your family and around your family. Like if you're invited to a family function, yes, you can say no. And would you rather go to that family function in like a negative space where you don't feel like you can properly engage with Uncle Mike or Auntie Sherry or the little nieces and nephews or whoever's there? And you know that when you get into that space of that family function you didn't want to be at, it's going to be problems when you get there. Is that going to be better than you saying, I would love to make this one, but unfortunately, I'm not able to? You protected your peace and you possibly protected them. Yes, Madeline, I agree. You need to keep your peace of mind. You have to. I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, so I just want to thank you all who have tuned in. I know the replay crew is going to show up later. I just want to remind you, please like the channel, comment. Even if you've commented in the live chat, just drop me a comment on the post. Follow the page and hit the notification bell. And I hope that all of you guys, hold on, let me see this comment before I go. I had a neighbor like that who no longer can call me, text only, giving me control. Lin, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? Sometimes people lose their peace. And I know I said I have to go, but that was just something that made me think of something else. Sometimes people lose their peace because of a fear of what's going to happen when they set a boundary. I have a saying when it comes to setting a boundary. When you set boundaries, you either win or win. And let me explain what that means. If somebody comes around you and you have a rule, if somebody comes around you, right? And you have a rule that you can only be this distance to me. You can't get any closer than this distance, right? And they keep getting into your space. But you have a rule that you haven't told them about. So they don't know that you have this rule about your space. So you feel upset and you feel angry every time they step into this space that you have set for yourself, right? You might be worried that if I tell this person that you're too close to me, they're going to feel offended and they're going to get angry, right? But here's the thing. They'll get offended and they'll get angry. But you get angry every time they step into your space. So you'll either get the win of they will not enter that space anymore out of respect for the boundary you set, or they will let you know that they don't respect your boundary and you win because you're like, if this person can't respect my boundaries, I can rid myself of them. So that's what I mean by you can either win or win. Yes. So as I was saying, thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate you. And I hope that you have a wonderful night. You have to set healthy boundaries for sure. I learned the hard way with too many people, family especially. It gets tricky with family. It gets tricky with family. I like to read these comments, so that's the reason why when I see the comments, I have to read them. But yeah, it definitely gets tricky with family, Victoria, because you are especially worried about offending or hurting family. You get especially worried, and I experience that too. It's hard when it's family. It's hard when it's family because you have more of a connection with them, you love them, and you feel like setting boundaries with family is hurting them. But really, not setting boundaries with your family is hurting your relationship with your family. And then it could be a case of they are violating a boundary that you have not expressed, right? They are violating that boundary and you let it go, you let it go, you let it go. And then one day you can't let it go anymore. You explode on them. And the family member is like, where is this coming from? I don't understand where this is coming from. But if you had actually stopped them early and said, hey, I have a boundary for this, and I have to let you know this is how I feel about this. They can react however they're going to react, but they're going to know about your boundary. I have an example. I have not a personal example, but an analogy that I always use. Some people's house, when you enter their house, you walk into the house, and what do they say? They say, can you please take off your shoes at the door? And the thing about that is some people don't like that. Some people are like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal with having shoes in the house? I have shoes on in my house. Some people might think that that's too anal. So they're like, I'm not going to come to that person's house. Okay. They're going to tell everybody who walks through the door, I don't allow shoes in my house. Some people are just going to know. They're just going to know every time they come. Okay, when I go to so-and-so's house, they don't allow shoes in the house, so I'm just going to take them off. Some people are going to not come to the house. But either way, no shoes are going to be on in the house. Now, if you have that rule, but you don't tell anyone, you feel strongly about shoes being on in your house. Somebody walks in the house and you're like, this is just so-and-so, and I don't want to tell them. I don't want to tell them to take their shoes off. Then they're going to come in the house with the shoes on. You're going to feel a way. They're going to feel nothing. The next person who comes in the house is going to see the footprints of the last person. Oh, this person just doesn't care if their house is dirty and has shoes tracking in. So then they're going to come in the house. Next thing you know, everybody's going to feel like they can just walk in the house, track whatever came in from outside all over the floor. But if you had set that boundary, it's not going to happen. Family takes things too personal. Take your shoes off. I love for the shoes to be taken off. Shoes off. Y'all are funny. Yeah, boundaries. Sometimes people don't set the boundaries because of being worried of having an uncomfortable conversation with the person. I'm not afraid of those conversations. I am not afraid of those conversations anymore. It used to be, there used to be a time when I was scared to set those boundaries for those same reasons, but now everybody knows. And sometimes people have reactions to boundaries that I set, but either way, they don't disrespect my requirements. Either they decide to respect the boundaries, which means they respect me, or they let me know that they don't respect me by not respecting the boundaries, and I choose to let them go. So, in conclusion, don't invest your energy with energy leeches. Learn to read the room and to know when people bring energy that is not really meant for you. Learn how to move out of the way, let the energy go right past you. The energy leech will starve. And for the third time, I hope all y'all have a wonderful night and we will talk soon.